Okay.
Cenk, do you want the Trump tax cuts to go
listen,
away?
can I just
and one other
regulate here
question,
and actually give truth and reality
why is
to
it
this
fair
nonsense
that Vietnam
propaganda?
is charging us 90% in tariffs and we're not charging them the same? President Trump's actually being very fair by
Carrie,
saying
you
we'll
want
charge
a
you half
giant
of
corporate
that.
tax cut, don't you? You both want a giant corporate tax cut. That's what this is about. It's all a giant ruse. You're not going to hear anything about tariffs after they pass that tax cut. This is not populism. It's the exact opposite.
In this video, Kari Lake and Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks joined Piers Morgan Uncensored. Cenk Uygur complains that Trump's tariffs only benefit the donor class. Not a surprise, that's his default complaint about everything. With that, let's watch Kari Lake school progressive lunatic Cenk Uygur.
Cenk, do you like paying more taxes?
Okay.
Cenk, do you want the Trump tax cuts to go
listen,
away?
can I just regulate here and actually give truth and reality to this nonsense propaganda?
Why is it fair that Vietnam is charging us 90% in tariffs and we're not charging them the same? President Trump's actually being very fair by
Carrie,
saying
you
we'll
want
charge
a
you
giant
half of
corporate
that.
tax cut, don't you? You both want a giant corporate tax cut. That's what this is about. It's all a giant ruse. You're not going to hear anything about tariffs after they pass that tax cut. This is not populism. It's the exact opposite. Okay, you want it, right? You want the $4.5 trillion tax cut for all your corporate buddies, right?
I do
and you're
want a
trying to
tax
disguise
cut.
that as populism?
No, I want it for all
of
Americans.
course you do. Not for you, for the giant corporations and the wealthy. That's what the tax cut's for. So let me just back up and explain all of this, okay? So number one, Kerry originally started talking about national security. That's always the excuse that they use. Biden used the same excuse. He said, oh, the CHIPS Act, it's national security. We have to make the chips here at home for semiconductors. Yeah, there's some truth to that. And there's some truth to protecting manufacturing here and for national security. But what do they use it for? Biden used it to shovel over $50 billion in subsidies to the donor class. Now, Trump is going to use it for $4.5 trillion in giant corporate tax cuts where they're going to take it from 21% to 15%. Steve Bannon is right about that. All populists, both on the right and the left, are right about that. Even if it was true that these magical things like these tariffs are going to last for years and years, no, they're not. After the tax cuts, you're never going to hear the tariffs again, okay? But even if that were true and they were to raise $6 trillion, well, okay, great, because we have a $37 trillion debt right now, and the populists are the only ones who actually care about it. The establishment Democrats and Republicans, and now Trump, and also in his first term, now in his second term, are going to add and add and add and add. So if you're worried about the debt, why would you do $4.5 trillion to the richest people in the country? Why are you taking it out of our pockets, putting it in their pockets? Trump already took the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%.
How did Cenk Uygur just jump from discussing the tariffs to that translating to a giant corporate tax rate cut? I really think this is his default, like I alluded to in the intro. I mean, you just heard him. He accuses Republicans and Democrats of always looking out for their corporate donors and the wealthy and never the people. But Kari Lake's first question was like, do you like paying more taxes? Does it make sense for other countries to have an enormous tariff on us while we don't have any on them? How is that possibly fair? All he did was jump straight into, you don't care about tariffs. Blah, 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 blah. The tariffs are a negotiating tool right now, and some may stay in place if people want to be adversarial with the United States on trade. You know, China's taking a hard line, but not importing from the United States will be a big hit to their economy. I'm not looking at the numbers, but it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And then you see the president of Vietnam, and then you see the leader of Vietnam talking to the president about working out a friendly trade agreement. China, if China doesn't want to play ball, what I'm starting to realize is there are a lot of other countries that will and can really boost their economy, becoming our primary trade partner in some of these things that we get from China. We'll get them. So all Americans, not just corporate donors, Cenk, all Americans will get savings on these products. Vietnam will benefit, and we'll cut into the $1.2 trillion trade deficit the United States is in as of 2024. And by the way, it just goes up $200-300 billion every year. You're telling me that's not contributing to our deficit? Let's keep watching, because I really don't know what Cenk is talking about.
Now he wants to bring it down to 15%. These tariffs are nothing but a distraction and a squirrel, so he can say, oh, it's all good. It's all good. I'm not going to add to the debt. You give all my corporate donors trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. If you were actually serious about being populist, you would say, okay, look, no matter what you think about tariffs and whether you think a more strategic approach would have been better or a blunt instrument like this, we can all agree that there's no reason to give away $4.5 trillion to corporations. You cannot make the argument that that's a populist position. That is a giant, giant, giant giveaway, and I can't stand it. And Batya, the way that Wall Street works, and believe me, I have no friend at Wall Street. Hold on.
Well.
The way that Wall Street works is, why does the stock market go down? It's not because it's a cabal and they get together and they're like, should we punish Trump? No, the price of aluminum goes up when you do the tariff. So what does that affect? For one of the things that it affects is beer, because the cans are made out of aluminum. So then I read a story today about how both on the Canadian side and the American side, they're worried about how the price of beer is going to go up. And also true of energy, so the price of gas is going to go up. So when that happens, the shares of those companies, beer companies, Coke, oil companies, et cetera, they go down a little bit because they know they're going to sell less because their prices are going to be higher and the economy is going to be hurt by it. They have that normal reaction to it. I'm not the guy who thinks, oh, stock market's the bellwether and the only thing that matters. No, wages matter. But this doesn't actually get us higher wages. It doesn't get us paid family leave. It doesn't get us anything that helps the average American. Instead, he's going to hurt the economy real bad because he's doing it in such a blunt way. And then he's going to use it as an excuse for his giant tax cuts that are going to go to all the corporations and all the donor class. And then afterwards, you're never going to hear the tariffs again. You're not going to hear the gold card. You're not going to hear a Doge. You're not going to hear anything, because the whole point is that giant giveaway to corporations, not.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
Not to the average American.
Well, I'm glad you got your talking points. Geez. Oh, you know what, Cenk? You can just write a check back to the U.S. Treasury.
Stone cold reality. You want to help your corporate buddies, don't you? Why do we have a corporate tax cut? Carrie, why do you want a corporate tax cut? If you're such a populist, why do you want a corporate tax cut?
Americans. I want the Trump tax cuts to continue for all Americans.
Corporations are not Americans.
I'm in Washington. It's so typical that the left always interrupts, but I'm here in Washington, D.C., Cenk, okay? I'm watching how they're abusing the American taxpayer. President Trump is standing up for the American taxpayer. We're cutting the waste in Washington, D.C. At the same time, remember, the Democrats have, sadly, they used to stand up for the working class. They don't care about the working class anymore. Look at all the wealthy donors who donated to Kamala. They're not for Trump anymore. They aren't. And he cares about the working men and women.
Carrie Lake makes a great point. The Democrat Party is the party of the billionaires. Look who donated to Kamala Harris's campaign. The Republican Party is now the party of average Americans and the blue-collar worker. I have no problem with Cenk going after corporations and politicians that all they care about is keeping them happy. I have no problem with that. But using the tariffs to make that point, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I feel like his anger is misplaced. I mean, I have no doubt that there are Republican politicians that only care about corporations so they can keep their coffers full for re-election, but maybe focus on the Democrat Party. Well, no one really cares about them right now, so I guess he's got no one to complain about, so he's got to go after Trump and everything that he does. And if tariffs are just a distraction for Donald Trump, why in the hell would he choose tariffs as a distraction that are such a divisive issue? There's so many people angry about it, so many people uncertain about it. It gave the stock market a hit. I fully believe in his strategy to the best that I understand it. But Donald Trump could have used something much less controversial than tariffs if all he was trying to create was a distraction. The markets, they react to emotion, just like Cenk's always over emotional here, just like any progressive or liberal. This tariff thing is a big, big shakeup, which unfortunately is desperately needed to dig ourselves out of the hole we're in. Of course, the stock market's going to take a hit due to all the varying opinions on tariffs and the fear that comes with that. So let's just all remember, Cenk said that once the tax cuts are put in place, you'll never hear about tariffs or anything else Trump is doing anymore. Let's remember that and see if he's correct. I'll concede that tariffs may go away in some cases if trade partners are reasonable and willing to work with the U.S., but that would be because the U.S. is getting what they wanted and it was a successful negotiation. Anyway, let's wrap up the video.
women. I have lived and I've been all across this country. I've lived in parts of the Rust Belt before where towns are just boarded up factories that haven't seen any work done in them for decades. We are going to bring back manufacturing and jobs for the American man and the American woman. And we're going to do so very quickly. This is not something that we're going to slow roll into. We've been watching for years as America's gotten screwed over by trade deals, and President Trump isn't going to stand for it anymore. We know this will work. There's going to be a lot of fear-mongering coming from the left and the media. There's going to be a ton of fear-mongering. Your beer prices are going to go up. All the stuff Cenk just said. Just wait and see. This is going to happen. There's going to be a few bumps along the way. But in the end, we are going to see a strong American economy, a strong middle class. You're right. The middle class has been decimated. It's going to come roaring back. If we don't have a middle class, our economy will never be strong again.
Donald Trump and his administration are simply trying to balance a very unbalanced board that we're currently trading on. And she said, I'm glad you got your talking points out, Cenk. That's exactly what they are, talking points, because notice the question no one seems to answer, I mentioned it earlier, is why should we accept such an insanely lopsided, unfair trade situation? You know, if Democrats are in power, they're not going to do anything about it. They won't make any ballsy moves or anything that's even remotely risky, because if it doesn't work out, they're afraid that they won't be reelected and have the ability to generate as much dirty money as they want and enrich themselves. If there's anybody watching this that is super concerned about these tariffs, I can understand that. It's a big change. But while I am the furthest thing from an expert on international trade, I genuinely believe this is what's in the best interest of our country. And I think in the long run, which Democrats can't see past this minute, much less into the future, in the long run, this will benefit every single American. But we want to hear from you. Let's just have the conversation in the comments. Talk about the pros and cons of the tariffs. Talk about, do you feel like it's a good move? Is it a bad move? Will it work out in the long run, or will it be an abject failure? Let us know. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.